Somewhere in the deep, dark depths of my soul comes a battle where things can get out of control quite quickly. Or at least, that's what I'm thinking. I guess you'll just have to stay tuned and see how this one unfolds as we're taking the United Provinces to the battle versus the United States. It's a whole heck of a lot of united going on, but they ain't united for each other. Yeah, reunited, united, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be quite the matchup as the Dutch under the United Provinces take on those pesky New Worlders in the United States in this 4v4 matchup on the Finland map. As now we scan the United States' situation as they take the hill, the major hill on this map, the tippity-toppest spot on this map as it slopes downward, parallel to everyone's position. And yeah, this is going to be a great one, guys. I hope you're ready. Things are going to get hot and heavy here pretty soon as we scope out everyone's position. The Americans are going to be taking a lot of the strategic positions in this map. Team 2 side, which the United States is going to be holding. They do hold the more defensible positions on this map. As you can see, they hold the upward slope both across and parallel to this map. As you can see, it has a slight slope upwards, and the Americans do have the highest range of superiority. Is that going to matter? I'm not sure, but we're going to find out as the riflemen of the Dutch take some shots at the Americans in the woods. Yeah, things are going to get crazy pretty quick. Hold your seat. Get that popcorn. Welcome back, everyone. This is David with Fairmere's Rangers. Alright, so in this one, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit to the start of this battle as we're just kind of skirmishing at this point. But things are going to get going here pretty quick, as you can see. The Dutch are making a move in the center here. We got quite a bit of guards. Blue Guard, Holland Guard. They got the riflemen. They're going to be going after the Americans here. Getting some shots on that Minuteman. Taking him down to smidgen. And then retreating back. Getting him down to 92. He's got a decent chunk at him, as you can see on the right flank of the Dutch. They're under fire from the American long rifles hidden in the woods here from the top of the hill. And getting some nice kills on the Dutch position there. Now, the Dutch are going to be pushing out into this hill. I'm sorry, not the hill, but in this valley region of the map. And they look to secure that. Maybe they're looking to divide the Americans and split them in two, but we'll just see how that process unfolds. Alright, so you can see here from the bottom part of the map where the Americans they have a very strong position. Looks like there's a bit of a standstill at the bottom part of the map at this point. The Dutch player is moving forward over here in the center, but on the left flank, it doesn't look like much is happening. As you can see, his guards are in the back, but we got some movement here in the center on the top, so we'll see what happens. They are coming with a lot of force. Got the militia and some lines moving up to get some shots on these weaker Minutemen. Now the American on the the bottom center is going to be moving 4 Marines and 2 Grenadiers up to reinforce over here on the left of his position, which is the top centermost player. Once again, this is going to be a 4v4 multiplayer match in our nation versus nation tournament. So we're going to see who comes out, who can claim the best of the best. Of course, each nation is going to play each other twice in this. So we'll see who claims the best. They got 2 chances to do it. And this is the first matchup. We claim the Americans to have the home field advantage as they take side for Team 2 side, which is, once again, considered the better position as they hold all the strategic spots. The center hill right here, as you can see, is a very strategic placement. And then, of course, on the right up, they have the high ground, which is the top hill, called the Hill of Boredom by a lot of people. And this one we call just the center hill. All right, so here that center thrust is starting to take place, and the Dutch are kind of folding the right and allowing the Americans to take that hill and move that position, because if they keep pushing over on that right flank, they'll overextend themselves. Now, it looks like here, with all the reinforcement of these Marines and Grenadiers, the Dutch player seems to be making a left turn of sorts and looks to be going against the American center left position on a downhill attack. Now that's going to cause problem for that American player who just moved all those men over the center hill, as he got his men very tired running over that hill. So we'll see how fast he can move them down to respond if this does take place. And you can see the skirmishing happening here on the bottom. It looks like the Dutch player in the center on the left is coming up to help this push. So this is going to be a push in force here against the center American player. And with all of his Marines up here and his Grenadiers, as you can see, they're a bit tired from all that running up over that center hill. Now they got to run all the damn way back, and you can see that the Dutch have a little bit of a advantage here as they're going to push forward and try to take some advantage here. And we're going to see how this progresses and if it works out or if it doesn't work out. You can see the Holland Guard here is looking to start taking some shots. Let's see if he gets going, or is the American player run too fast. So the American player is kiting quite a bit here as he sees these guards. A wise move, a very wise move indeed. But he's not kiting strong enough, as he's going to have 3 full-strength line infantry that are going to be taking on 6 guards. Now he is going to bring his light dragoons, which are hidden up on the center hill, and he's going to bring them to bear. Those are going to be the better of his units to take on these guards. As you can see, these lines are getting some shots in, but they're not going to be as effective as these blue guards are going to start just ripping through these shots. You can see they're already starting to get some shots in, and quickly already they have turned the tide from those first 2 initial volleys of the American lines. They're just tearing into these American players, and this is how you do a push here. As you continually get shots, you move some of your guards at a time. It does take time to set up those platoon fires. They got a great shot off that slope of the hill onto the Holland Guard there on the flank. Got him down to 70. Just got another shot, taking him down to 56. So now these Dutch lines are going to set up on the flank of those guards so that they hopefully don't take as much damage. And you can see here the Dutch player on the bottom left is making a push, trying to force that American player out of the woodland, as we got a massive rush going here in the center. So let's see how it all chalks up or whatever. The American player is going to continually have to push his range back, as the Dutch guards here are right in their face, so they're going to have to kite back a little bit more. And now the bottom player over here is in a bit of trouble, as the center player kiting back like that is going to put the American player on the other flank in a bit of a trouble, but a little bit of trouble on the Dutch right flank. We'll see if that materializes or if it ends up being not a big deal in this battle. All right, so here we go. The blue guards ripping loose with some shots, doing some heavy damage. Already got one of the American lines down to 43. They're about to make a move. Now the 2 Dutch players here are overlapping their guards. So it looks like what's happening here is not going to be good. If they start shooting, they're going to cause a lot of friendly fire. So that's a good time for the bayonet, as that's what's going to happen here. As the American player finally gets down his 4 Marines and his 2 Grenadiers. And that can be problematic for these guards, as those Grenadiers can cause severe damage even to a more superior guard unit. They can cause massive amounts of damage very rapidly when they start throwing grenades. And he's got the 4 Marines, or now just 2 Marines, shooting at the blue guard. He's getting some great shots in on it, but they are pushing through. These Minutemen here that held the center player's left flank are busting through, just getting beat down. They're going to break quite rapidly, as these guards are going to run from the Grenadiers and just busting through these Minutemen. And the Minutemen are just not strong enough to hold up against that. They're just not going to do it. As you can see here, the guards setting up, getting ready to blast these Grenadiers. Yep, you can see once again the Minutemen, they're not faring well. And look at this, coming up on the flank of the bottom player of the Americans. They're going to start ripping through those units, just ripping through them. Got a Grenadier coming through the woods. All right, they'll be able to start shooting those Grenadiers, but the Grenadier, wisely, he moves those Grenadiers back. Otherwise, they would have got blasted down before they did any damage. It's kind of the risk with Grenadiers. When you have a low number of men, 60, you got to make them count if you use them. Man, look at the blue guards have just ripped down that American guard. They didn't even stand a chance there. They're getting shots on these American player on the bottom left flank here as they make the retreat, and they're just kind of sweeping through that flank. So the bottom American player is completely trapped here. See his 2 long-range units are coming under fire. He's got his light dragoons taking some shots, which are doing some nice damage there. Up here on the top part, the Dutch still hold the center and are keeping the 2 American armies split. As you can see here, the Dutch player on the top is getting flanked on his right flank. All right. But looks like the center Dutch player is doing very well here. And now we got the Dutch player on the flank coming up to inflict some damage, as his flank is just getting torn down unit after unit. It's just too much for him to come across with all these extra guards just tearing into him. He's just going to get the beat down put on him. So the question is, can they do something with these light dragoons hitting them like this? Are they going to be able to do the damage to keep the American player from escaping out of this corner and getting to safety with his allies? That's going to be the question. All right, so it looks like it's going to be a question that's going to be answered quite quickly, as the Dutch player is going to bring some light dragoons over to counter against the American dragoons. Now the Dutch player up here at the top part of the battlefield is getting completely overwhelmed up here. Yeah, he's just overmatched here. Most of the Dutch forces are downhill, so he should be kiting away from this instead of taking that fight. But it is what it is. If he can hold out versus these 2 players while they knock out an entire army here, because the Dutch player on the top is still inflicting some damage to the top players, even though he is looking like he's going to lose his army. But again, this American player looks like he's trying to escape, and he's doing fairly well at looking to get out of there. But this Dutch cav is going to hopefully help stymie that effort, as these blue guards now are going to have some time to start ripping through these American units here. And we'll see how this goes down. The other Dutch player needs to get in there. He's going to the bottom side. He should be pushing up around back to the center. You got an anchor point with these blue guards starting to shoot. You should be pushing uphill to keep the American player trapped. You can have a couple lines to keep them from pushing out on the left, but you should be forcing up, because you know they're wanting to reinforce with their ally, who their ally is starting to take a pretty good beating here in the center. as he has lost quite a bit. You can see a lot of the units in the background that were routing. So the Dutch player in the center really putting a number on him there. And over here, the fight continues. This is where the battle is going to really be decided. If this player does not receive any support from any of his allies, then the game will be over, because this is a pretty large army being knocked out, and the player on the bottom left is still really hadn't engaged a whole lot other than his cav, because you can see the green flag of the Dutch player was the Dutch player that was on the center right. So the far left player still needs to get more in it. You see he's back a bit. He's got to get in that fight. Start dishing out some punishment. All right. Now, you can see that the Dutch player on the top has really started falling back and starting to come back towards his allies. So he is taking some damage, but also, again, dishing it out to the Americans as they push forward against them. And that is the most important part. You can give ground, but you got to force some damage as a consequence against them. Now, these American Light Dragoons here are overmatched, as they are going to be taking on 3 more Dutch Light Dragoons. The other 3 had already died off, but now these other Light Dragoons are more at advantage. All right, so yeah, I think the American player looks like they're getting just whittled down. There's not a lot of them left here. So I think this is going to be a victory on this flank for the Dutch. We'll just see if the Americans can pull out a victory on the other flank that would be enough to make a difference. That, I think, will be the main question. As you can see here, there's quite a bit of shots ripping into the American here. They're getting whittled down pretty fast in the center woodland here. You can see the light infantry moving over to the center a little bit more to the open ground, but the American player is trying to make a push here. I'm not really certain what that's about. It looks like he was trying to get the Grenadier in there, but the Grenadier is just going to get wasted there. All right, so here come the Americans. And I will tell you here in just a minute, one of the American players does drop, so that is going to put a big disability on the Americans here. Obviously, with that player dropping, it will go over to AI control, and that is going to give a big boost to the Dutch odds here. Now, that is a very unfortunate thing when we have players drop in battles, but if it is at a point where the battle has already been fighting for quite a while, it's just something you're going to have to live with, something that you have to overcome as a team. And we'll see if the Americans are a strong enough team to be able to overcome that. Are their men up to the challenge? So most of the AI controlled units are going to be coming over on the right flank through the valley region and through the other side. As you can see, all of them over here. So not all of this, but a pretty good majority of these units, why they're acting all weird and cattywampus, is because they are now AI controlled. So the Dutch player here that is pretty much beat at this point. The battle is getting some damage in on him, but even still, the Dutch player is pretty weak at this point, so it's still not going to be enough to defeat these American AI now controlled units. As you can see, they're still getting some shots in on them. So we'll see if it is enough to win the battle for which side. All right, so the Dutch are looking to take all of these positions over here on the left flank, as these are the remnants of that army, just 2 little depleted units. So that part of the forces completely mopped up, and now the Dutch are starting to roll upwards up the hill. As you can see, we're going up a upward slope, so it is more disadvantageous to the Dutch to push uphill and more advantageous to the Americans defending the higher ground, as pushing up against an opposing player, you're going to take a lot of energy from your men, so it's easy to wear out. As you can see here, the top fight on the center hill. It looks like a slope of the hill is going to prevent some of the shots from going home true against the Dutch or the Americans. And over here, again, the American player, you can see the last flag routing out down there on the bottom. So here we go. The end game on this part of the battlefield looks like it is close to being decided. As you can see, the American player is going to do a downhill charge on these riflemen. Should have carried through with that charge. It probably could have routed those riflemen. You're already going to take a shot from those lines, so you might as well just follow through with it, at least with one of those cav, and get the deed done. All right, so as we're talking about, the Dutch player has pretty much lost all of his units. All the ones that were holding the center are pretty much gone. So now there is just a little bit of units over here holding on to the Dutch right flank. The rest of it is now securing the center hill, which is a vitally important strategic position. The Americans should have probably tried to hold on to that a little bit harder, because now that is going to be a problem. As you can see, some really good solid units for the Dutch coming up here. That was the remnants of the army from the other flank, and they will force up into the battlefield. And yet another Dutch unit coming up, and yeah, so the remnants of these forces holding the center hill for the Americans are about to get routed out. Just one Marine holding on there. The rest of them have vacated. Now there is quite a few Marines coming to kind of help out that American player. A little too late at this point, but at least some help is on the way. So 3 Marines, and I think there's an additional 3 that will be coming in a little bit to help out and try to re-secure the American position. You can see the other 3 now at the top of the hill coming to help out. Over here it is looking dire, but a lot of this is AI controlled, so it should be fairly easy for the Dutch to clear that up. So honestly, at this point of the battle, I would say that the Dutch are probably losing this battle, but due to the fact that one of the armies is AI controlled, one of the armies for the Americans is already completely gone. Even though one of the Dutch armies is gone now, they've done a lot of damage to the other remnant armies. Even though these are some fresh Marines coming up, you can see they're coming up from a trot down the hill, and they're already getting shots on it from some depleted blue guards. One of these blue guards is in the teens, and they're getting some great shots on them before the Marines even set up to shoot. They're already down to 74. I think that blue guard was only at 18 when that whole fight started. So all these pretty depleted guard units are going to get killed off pretty quickly, but once again, doing some nice damage in here versus these Marines, because they hold the woodland. As you can see them in there, having that wooded protection is going to give some protection against these 3 Marines. Needless to say, the Dutch are going to lose this fight over here on the right flank, so the tide is turning back to the Americans. So we'll see if that helps them to retake the momentum, or if the AI controlled army is just going to be too much for the Americans to overcome. All right, so this looks like the end of the Dutch here. As you can see through the trees, the flag is starting to blink, and he is going to basically break at this point. So quite a bit of damage done to those Marines. One of them still fresh, and we got 3 more fresh Marines coming down. All of them in 90 man, so all 100% fresh. And these blue guards here, that was the player that was on the far bottom left Dutch flank, is securing that position. And here is the remnants of the AI army versus 2 Dutch lines and 1 rifleman. So causing as much damage as can be had against all these units. There's some American guards and some other pretty good units in there, but a lot of Minutemen as well. So while that pressure is being laid upon the Dutch right flank, the Americans on that center part should be pushing an advantage there to really push the center hill to try to retake the center hill. So we'll see if that happens. As you can see, the Dutch have reinforced this flank, wisely so, because there's no way 1 rifleman and 2 very depleted lines can hold that position. You have 2 Dutch generals in the background helping to boost the morale a bit. You can see the AI is just getting whacked down here. Kind of unfortunate here. The Americans have put up a great fight in a tough situation. A really good attack for the Dutch. But I think the Dutch were frankly losing this fight. If it wouldn't have been for the AI taking over for the drop player, I think this battle could have gone differently. As you can probably tell from the observation of watching what has happened here. But it's just, again, one of those unfortunate things that you're going to have to overcome if you have a player drop. So you have to go into more of a defensive mode and really hold on to the very important ground and hope for the best. You know, a lot of kiting, a lot of giving damage and giving ground slowly with lots of damage. You can see the Dutch general charging into these guards just to hold them back from getting into the fight, making sure they don't get any shots off. I'm going to hit these Maryland, getting a little bit of damage on them, starting them waver. And then it looks like the general's going to try to go down and knock out some of these long riflemen. Now, the long rifles are actually human controlled. We're going to speed this up. This battle is pretty much over at this point, because now with all this push on the Dutch, you can see all the bodies laying all over the place. So you can see where most of the action did occur here. As we wrap up this battle, I think the Dutch are just going to take this. Too much AI controlled units left for the Americans. Unfortunate it is, but you can see where most of the fighting happened over here in the trees. Got a lot of death, and up on the center hill, a lot of death, and over here in this ground, quite a bit. Dead bodies laying on the floor. And now, obviously, a lot of this fight is taking place over here, so you're going to see a lot of death occurring here as well. And over here at the top, you can see a pretty horrendous fight happened here. A lot of death up here that was whittled down mostly off the Dutch player, I think, and definitely did cause some damage to the Americans, and that was beneficial, especially the fact that he had to take on a 2v1 in pretty much every sense of the word, as you had about a 1.5 Dutch armies up there and 2.5 Dutch armies on the bottom portion of the battlefield. All right, so the Americans starting to rout off over here on this flank. That's going to spell the end for them as the Americans look to drop to 0-1 in this nation versus nation tournament, 4v4 tournament, and the Dutch of the United Provinces are going to go to 1-0, getting their first victory of this first season of our nation versus nation Empire Total War tournament. And that is it, my friends. This one is going in the books. Should be. It looks like we got a general up at the top. You can see that flag solid up there at the tippy top of the screen. But that is the last American unit. It will soon rout off. So good play by all the participants in this match. Everybody did a really good job. The Americans that were left standing really did well holding out against what they were up against. So really good play on their part, and a really good play on the Dutch part as well. So appreciate everyone's involvement in this match, and I had a lot of fun in it, and I'm sure all the other players did as well. And yeah, so we'll see you on the next match of week 1 of our Nation versus Nation tournament. Look to see more of that content coming very, very soon. And on Thursday this week, we will do the last matchups for this first week, which will be Spain versus the Huron and Iroquois, Poland, Lithuania versus the Ottoman Empire, and Prussia versus Austria. See you then.